Vasyl Lomachenko, the eventual Hall of Famer. His Hall of Fame bid will have to wait, apparently, because he's planning on coming back to the sport. We did a video last year when he announced his retirement, bidding him farewell, giving him his props. Both of us agreed he was a Hall of Fame fighter. To which table he sits at is debatable, with the best of the best and the Pacquiao level and Mayweather level, no. But is he a Hall of Famer? We both concluded yes, he is. For having done things in as few fights as anyone had ever done in the history of the sport, winning a title in 2 divisions, etc. The Lomachenko run, quality wins. But now he's set to come back by reports by Coppinger in the ring. And man, my first thoughts were, okay, I had moved on. I had closed the book on that show. Sometimes those TV shows, when you reboot them, like Saved by the Bell, the college years, it's not as good as when they were in high school at Bayside High. And you're always taking a risk when you come with this kind of comeback, because this isn't a Floyd Mayweather comeback after 2 years against Marquez. This isn't Sugar Ray Leonard coming back for Marvin Hagler in their early 30s. This is, you're already 37, 38 years old and had a really good performance against George Kambosos, first guy to stop him. And I don't know. So apparently 2 of the rumored opponents would be Emmanuel Navarrete, difficult fight, even though his countryman did beat Navarrete, Denis Beranchyk, but he beat a chubby and uninspired Emmanuel Navarrete. Navarrete, he alternates over the last several fights between chubby, disinterested Navarrete and really fucking good and on point Emmanuel Navarrete. And the latter might beat Lomachenko. The former hands 2 belts to Lomachenko at 130 if he ever goes back down to 130 instead of returning as a lightweight. But the other fight was Gervonta Davis. And now Gervonta Davis is being rumored to fight Kid Austin, or else he's going to get stripped of his WBA belt. And I don't know. Now I'm thinking, because that was supposed to be the fight in late 2024, November, December 2024. Lomachenko decided to retire anyways. Now he's back, apparently the day his deal with Top Rank expired. And which is funny, because Top Rank always looked at him as the most loyal of soldiers and dutiful soldiers. And he's like, actually, I want more than my guaranteed money. I want the turkey money in all likelihood. So he retires the day that's up. Maybe him and Tank make sense again, too, because I haven't really been thinking of Gervonta Davis that much either. I got raked through the coals by some people on Twitter because they shared a clip of my guy Ant Bernal on the Porterway podcast saying, no, hey guys, you notice the sport has moved on from Gervonta Davis? And I just sip my water and I go, yeah. And it's because even when De La Hoya took 2 years off from 04 to 06, things keep moving, fights keep happening, the world keeps turning. When Tyson was in prison, that was a little different. And Ali, when he when he was stripped of his title for the Vietnam thing, they were constantly still in the boxing headlines in a way that even Davis and even De La Hoya weren't quite. De La Hoya, too. I was there in the mid-2000s. But the point being, Riddick Bowe still fought Evander Holyfield. George Foreman still fought Evander Holyfield. George Foreman still made the entire sporting world stop when he knocked out Michael Moore. Things keep turning. So I haven't really been thinking of Gervonta Davis. I haven't really been thinking of Vasyl Lomachenko. Maybe you two can fight each other now as was originally planned. Besides, the Navarrete fight is super dangerous anyways, so you might as well go for the big money against Davis.
I don't think this WBA thing is going to come to fruition. I think that's just to get us talking. I think that's really just to get us talking. I don't see that actually happening. And the Ukrainians are gaming the system. They've sorted out how to play it. And kudos to them. Usyk playing the whole, here, take my championship belt. Have a couple of fights with it. Then let me come back and take it off of you and become a second time undisputed. Let me take my belt. Have a couple of championship fights with it. Let me come back and become a 3-time undisputed. That's the game Usyk is playing right now. He's getting the big money. I think, of course, he expected last Saturday to be a lot more easy than it was. But unlike most pundits, I don't think he's gotten old or lost a step. I think he made a calculated mistake. and getting in there, being heavy, trying for something that wasn't the right strategy, and being surprised by the ability and the game plan of his opponent, which can happen when you've never seen a guy fight before. And I know we're not doing that fight right now, but one thing I did want to add to that conversation, which is I'm not hearing anybody talk about, which was the same thing with Ngannou. If you've never seen a guy fight before as a boxer who is a proficient combat athlete, they can come in with a game plan that takes you too long to figure out. That really not having the long history of opponents and becoming a contender and working your way up and getting in position to be a champion and then having a championship fight, that can actually be an advantage for the newcomer if you are in fact an accomplished, athletic, able combat athlete. You can come in with no tape on you. There's no wearing on your there's no tread run out on your tires as a boxer. You'll do things that no one's seen you do before, not sure how to counter. They don't know where your weaknesses are yet. Fighting through the ranks and coming up as a boxer, that's part of what makes it so hard to become champion. So while you're saying, oh, this guy comes out of nowhere and he's done this to Usyk and I think he won the fight or it was at least a draw and that means something terrible about Usyk, well, don't forget that he skipped that line of guys who Usyk would have had the opportunity to have seen at their best and at their worst, who he's seen the cracks in their armor, who have tread on those tires, who he's seen against other styles, who he knows what they're going to do. This guy's not that. That's an advantage. It's not necessarily a disadvantage if you're dealing with an athletic combat athlete.
You're making such a great point. I just, for 2 seconds, got to get in. That's such a great point. No one's able to chip away at your deficiencies little by little, expose little holes. The Dolphins, like 15 years ago, they ran that Wildcat offense, and they beat the shit out of the Patriots, who went on to like go to the Super Bowl that year because they didn't. What the fuck is this? And then it was out of the league a year or two later. Wasn't even a viable offense anymore. But when no one had seen that offense, the Dolphins, who weren't even good, made it all the way to the playoffs because there was no tape on that. Yeah, you're right. So
exactly. Exactly. So I'm not going to labor on this point. If you see that in me, myself, and Irene again, the next time out, Rico's getting sparked out by any top 10 heavyweight. Now they've seen that. If he comes exactly like that again, it's going to look like Ngannou Joshua. Lomachenko has clearly made a choice when he made that retirement. He completely conned us all. He knew he was coming back. He knew exactly what day he was coming back. I think while Usyk has been putting on weight and getting ready for this fight and doing his thing, we haven't seen Lomachenko. You think he's just been sitting on the couch eating Cheetos or Pringles and dipping them in sour cream and chives? No, sir. I think he's been secretly, quietly, behind closed doors in the gym, staying ready. That's their mindset, their discipline. He hasn't lost that discipline. I think he's taking a rest from the battering and staying sharp, preparing for this comeback so he can come out like gangbusters. I think that's the plan anyway. I don't believe for a second that he believed for a second that he was really retired. So if that's the case, and he's been sharpening his tools, getting his rest, taking a little break from taking punches, and getting back to his disciplined way of training for fights, probably getting sparring partners with NDAs who aren't allowed to say that they've been sparring. I guarantee you this guy's been keeping his knife sharp this whole time. And the fight that it should 100%, if you're going to take on Tank, this is the time to do it. Come right back. Tank's been gone. You've been gone. Come right back. Nobody really knows what either one of you have. It's Lomachenko's best shot at beating Tank. And who knows, it might be Tank's best shot at beating Lomachenko. We don't know. That fight immediately is hot fire. This is the best time for each of them to fight each other. But I'll tell you what, while that's the best fight unquestionably, that's not the fight I would most want to see. I want to see a Lomachenko Nakatani. I would like to see Lomachenko take on the Japanese. Let's see if we can find a weight for Inoue. This is now that's the league that they were talking about Lomachenko in before the Teofimo loss, which is out of his weight class. We can't forget he's fighting too heavy anyway. right? So yes, the Tank fight. If you can make that, everything else doesn't matter. I can't make an argument. Make the fight. I'm here for it 100%. But the real like, ooh, can he come back in the class he should have never had to leave, in his proper weight class, and take on these Japanese fighters? I mean,
You do
that
know that would make Inoue and Nakatani are 122 pounders, and Loma started his career at 26. So those two have
yes.
never even competed in the weight class Loma fought at as a young man. Like,
What
he's still
look, wait,
bigger than them.
Nakatani is the bigger one.
He's the taller one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So wait, we can't. You don't think we can see this at 26?
No, I don't think Lomachenko could get down to 26. 30 maybe.
I don't know, Shawnee. It hasn't been. I mean, why not?
Come on, man. We're both well past 30 years old at this point. You know that shit, it gets different.
I think he is such a naturally little guy. If he hasn't been cheating, and I don't think he has, I don't think he has. I think he has been fighting unnaturally heavy for the majority of the big fights that we've seen.
Yeah.
I think to take the stress off of having to fight bigger guys, he would naturally be that small. I don't know.
Yeah, but you remember Pacquiao for years, him and Freddie would talk about 140. 140, he'd be even better at 140. He's so small at 47. Did he ever do it? No.
Okay.
So Loma could talk about 130, 130, 130, 130. I got to see him fight in a weight he hasn't fought at in like a decade to believe it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this is what I would, you know what I mean? To
Yeah,
me,
yeah, no, I know.
that's a tantalizing, like, ooh. Because in the same way that he climbed up, what was his heaviest fight? What was his heaviest
Loma?
fight? Yes.
135.
135, right? And he came from where?
126.
Okay, so I get you. I understand. Maybe he can't get down to 126. I'm saying in a fantasy world, he goes back to his original weight, where I don't believe he should have ever had to fight heavier than to be the kind of star.
In a way, he's pumped the brakes on 26. He's like, I don't even. Inoue's team has pumped the brakes on 26. Like, nah, never mind. We're gonna stick around 122 for a while.
That's why it's the fight. He's old. You've seen him. He's been beaten. So it's only fair. And this guy is everybody's number one pound for pound, especially now that the Usyk fight just took place. So there is the equivalence. Come up to 26. That's not crazy. That's what these tiny little guys have to do to get super mega fights, right? Come up to 26. Lomachenko gets down at 26. That's fair. It's a little heavy for Inoue or Nakatani, and they're a little young for Lomachenko. I think he could make. I just think I don't know if he can make that weight, but in my imagination, that's the fight that's the way he's always been best at, and we got something. No.
Yeah, no. I think you're better off with the Gervonta Davis route. I think that's more realistic, and
that's 100% more realistic. But
yeah.
if we could make it, would you? If you could, if it could happen.
Me personally, I'm good. No, I'm at this point. I just want. I'm allowing Inoue because Inoue didn't look like his body was asking him to move up yet, and I respected them changing course from basically after Nakatani 26 is next, going after Undisputed is next. I think the quality fights for Inoue remain at 26, and I'm going to be respectful of him after seeing how his body looked against Nakatani, after seeing that he actually looked like the smaller man against Nakatani. I'm going to allow him some time to allow the 26-pounders who don't have the name of a Lomachenko to put in their work. One of them unified, like a Bruce Carrington, like an Angelo Leo, like a Rafael Espinoza, who might just be too big for Inoue. And him sit back, maybe have a rematch with Nakatani, fight some quality names at 22, and then when the time is right, make his move to 26 for a worthy challenger who will have a size and a youth advantage over him by the time he makes that move. That's what I'm looking for. Inoue's last hurrah to be 126 against a worthy unified champion in that division, But what you're saying has more name value and sizzle. I just don't think it's realistic, but you never know.
No, course, it's not realistic, I guess.
Yeah.
But I had, you throw these things out. You hope that maybe the universe is listening.
Let me ask you this: who do you think? Because it's not a. Who do you think in their prime? Let's say the Gervonta that fought Ryan Garcia, the Gervonta that knocked out Leo Santa Cruz, that kind of guy, against the Lomachenko era Loma, or even the Loma that fought Linares, whatever. Prime Loma, prime Tank. Who do you think would have won that fight?
At what weight?
Yeah, it's let's say 30 or 35. Does the weight really affect who you think wins to that level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think Lomachenko has the better skills. I think Tank is the heavier puncher for sure. Has skills, but also really hasn't faced level of competition anywhere near Lomachenko. And if he's got the weight advantage, like we even saw Linares knock down Lomachenko, right? Like,
right.
If he's got that weight advantage at their prime, then I'm giving him a much better chance. If we're at the lower weight where Lomachenko is most comfortable, where he's got a little bit more power, and maybe Tank has less power because he couldn't even remember he missed weight at that weight. So if he's drained down, that gives me a greater advantage for Lomachenko. So yeah, the weight definitely matters. And right now, though, not being, who knows?
Yeah, that's what makes it intriguing. The equalizer is Tank coming off the weakest performance of his career against Roach and over a year layoff against a guy who's older and coming off a layoff too. So there's a little bit of an equalizer at play there with Tank. Even though he's still much younger, he's had a long layoff. He didn't look, by his standards, that very good against Lamont Roach. So yeah, right. I think that fight does make sense from all those standpoints.
I'm also assuming that with my, I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, but my theory that Lomachenko, well, yeah, it is a conspiracy because he totally boned Top Rank conspiring against him.
Was that a duck? I know a lot of Gervonta supporters will say that was a duck on Loma's part. Is that a duck?
Not if the fight happens. It's a golden goose. It's a duck, golden goose, because they'll get a lot more money for it now than they would have gotten for it then. All of these invariables now make it a lot more interesting as to what we're going to see from either guy. We don't know.
Could have been a unification back then. It could have arguably been a Ring Magazine title fight back then, if not a unification.
Well, yeah, but now, Netflix is in the game, Zuffa's in the game, Turkey is only putting on these super massive shows. I think they make more money now. If this was their next fight, if they both come out of where they are in this kind of like mystery place, both having, questionable performances in their resumes now, I could see this fight on Netflix. I could see this fight being a massive blockbuster show that outsizes what it once would have been. And I think for Lomachenko's sake, he's got a better shot at it now than he would have then. Because and while he's sharpening his knives, I assume, and really has been plotting this for 2 years, I certainly don't think that's been Gervonta Davis's focus. I don't think he's been sharpening his tools. I don't think he's been focused on this. And I don't know what the ring rust and off the back of his last fight and all the legal issues, and now he's hanging out with Bronner again. None of that's good. So, yeah, I think it's if the fight happens, it's a damn slick move from Lomachenko.
And
it's a golden goose, not a duck.
I like that. Golden goose, not a very clever. The shame of it would be, though, that once upon a time at super featherweight, it would have easily decided, once and for all, who the best in that weight was. It was regarded as Lomachenko, but Davis was, with the IBF title after Pedraza, was viewed as the biggest threat to Lomachenko in that division. Now, Mayweather Promotions wasn't in the business of doing anything with Top Rank. Even Top Rank Bob Arum said some things that he wasn't interested in making that fight either. It was viewed more as the Davis side doesn't want it until Floyd was beginning to have a falling out with Gervonta and then threatened him with putting him in with Lomachenko. Gervonta told me on your channel, Seconds Out, when I was covering that fight week, 4 Seconds Out, that he would never that Lomachenko's. He told me he'll never fight me until he's in a wheelchair. And then Gervonta was like, "Yeah, I don't have to rush." So that was perceived as Gervonta being more of the duck. Then at lightweight, by late 24, after Kambosos, Loma has the IBF title, Tank has the WBA. They were both had a lot of momentum. That would have been for the lightweight title. So Lomachenko walked away from the table. So I guess as I'm adding it all up in my head, and sometimes I like to meet people, I like to be the mediator in these things. Hey, they both, you could argue at various points, stepped away from the table at fighting each other. So, but the point is that, unfortunately, the fight would be happening, it would appear, past their primes. Maybe Davis is younger and we could reclaim. It's still a good fight. The question for Lomachenko is the third time the charm. You came up short against Lopez. You came up short against Haney. The other two excellent pedigree American fighters, younger than you, of this era. Can you do it a third time against Gervonta Davis? And for Gervonta Davis, can you do what those two didn't do, and that's knock Lomachenko out?
I would say the time in which you were originally referencing, Gervonta Davis was 100% living the Mayweather model.
Yes.
And they're like, we don't need a Lomachenko. He needs us.
They try to time it to where it would favor Tank. Well, he was peaking after Frank Hart.
I'm in no rush. Yeah. I'm making pay-per-view dollars. I'm the guy that is like, hood champion, and everybody's talking about me. Yeah, they're giving you the pedigree, but you're not making the money. You're not filling out pay-per-view cards and selling out arenas or stadiums, certainly. Wait, you can wait. Let me do my thing, and it's understandable. And now, I think that element is removed. And maybe, you could even argue with this comeback that Tank might need, this might be the time. Like, if you're using that model, like, okay, that's a card we can play anytime to get us back on top or make a big payday kind of out of nowhere. And you probably still advantage Tank Davis if you have some confidence that he can be focused, that he will be in shape, that his mind is on his business. That's a good, solid comeback win. If he were to get it over Lomachenko, he's right back in the conversation, maybe even more so than the rematch. Like, that puts Tank, like, if you said, if he knocks out Lomachenko even after a 2-year layoff, all the discussions are right back here. And everybody who I think has been leveling up, who has been getting better in Tank's absence, will still be looked at as 50-50 at best. If he goes out there and knocks out Lomachenko, nobody's automatically getting picked over Tank in a head-to-head.
By the time they started wanting to and Lomachenko did look really good against Kambosos, but they also were trying to time it with there was becoming more pressure than ever to fight Shakur, maybe even Keyshawn, Devin Haney at 140, and it was like, now let's fight Lomachenko. Let's fight the smallest and the oldest of all the acceptable elite level still opponents. So yeah, if they look to do that now, it makes sense. And kind of a loser goes home situation too, which is another reason I like the fight. If you guys are coming and going in your careers here, if it's Lomachenko, you lose the Tank, that's it. It's over at that age. For Tank, if you lose to Lomachenko, then we know once and for all, you're not beating those guys. You're not beating your contemporaries who are around your age.
And he will pay a price. If you go back and watch our shows from like a year ago, when we were talking about this, I'm on record somewhere, because I remember having this conversation with you on camera. If you go back and listen, I will tell you, and I can reiterate it now, he will pay a price for not fighting these guys then. And the price is, they have gotten better. These are much harder outs. These are much more difficult fights now than they would have been then. And since he swerved them, they've been getting better. They are active. They are leveling up. They are fighting each other and figuring it out. Now, if you get the Lomachenko fight and knock him out, and this is a big if, we're just saying if that were to happen, and all of a sudden you're lined up, you gotta go for these guys now. Those are much more difficult outs, and maybe you lose to these guys now when you would have beaten them before.
Mm-hmm. Yes, great point. Yeah, better and bigger. Devin Haney. That's probably not even an option now. He's a welterweight, a big welterweight, and you're still a lightweight. Shakur Stevenson filled out nicely at 140 against Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo's going to welterweight along with Haney, and yeah, in 2024, coming off the Frank Martin fight, I thought him and Shakur was a 50-50 kind of fight. And you are only as good as your last fight. Maybe he comes back and looks fantastic, gets himself in great shape. He wasn't in great shape, muscularity-wise against Roach. He looked flat. His body looked flat. His performances looked flat. Against Frank Martin, high guard, ripped up, in good shape. I thought he was firing on all cylinders, Ryan Garcia, Frank Martin, back-to-back, and was ready to make that jump. They didn't. They wind up doing a meth. They helped make Lamont Roach a name instead. So you're absolutely right. Around 2024, Shakur coming off a shaky De Los Santos fight, eventually going to fight Padley as the Kid Austin fight falls through. That felt more like even money. Now, nobody in the boxing world, experts and fighters, pick anybody to beat Shakur Stevenson, let alone Gervonta Davis, who's evolved for the time being until he comes back, until he looks good, into an afterthought. So, yeah, great. That aged well, Raheem.